started. Hit that up on your Instagram follow. Thank you, appreciate y'all. So I have with me some amazing guests on this panel. So we're gonna start from Kev right here.
Yes, sir. Yo, I go by the name of Kevin Legend, aka Ice, and represent VOE Podcast. How y'all doing today? I'm passing it over to my man to the left.
Everybody, I'm Justin from UntitledGeeks.com. Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm gonna drop my optic like Kevin over here.
Optic section.
This is my Toney. I'm a designer and illustrator. That's it.
What's up, everyone? I'm fantastic Frankey, bringing in a dose of estrogen in this panel, so definitely needs.
Yeah, Frankey.
Oh, it's great. Out of here, so Frankey again.
What's up, everybody? I'm Joe Kennedy of Trapped in Anime. I am now the talking to Micheal.
He's actually fixed the franchise. I don't know why he says that. I am Michael Guthrie. I am the editor and actor for Trapped in Anime, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's what's up, that's what's up. So we're here talking about our experiences of growing up anime, because I feel we got it started in the 90s for y'all, so I'm just, you're welcome. Just joke. We weren't fortunate to have this access to like crunchyroll, funimation, Netflix when it came to anime. Hold on real quick. What up, Soul Taco? I love you, baby. So, me personally growing up, I was in high school and I was heavy into comics. That's what got me started drawing. And then I had a classmate who sat next to me and was like, hey, you like comics? I'm like, I know you ain't just tapping me to ask me if I like comics. Like, I have them in front of me. Like, what's wrong with you? So he was like, all right, cool. You come to class tomorrow? I got something for you. He bought me a VHS tape. I'm not telling you my age. But he brought me a VHS tape. And it was Ninja Scrolls.
Yes! So, how old are you? Watch your Ninja Scrolls!
First of all, my mom's not here. Don't judge me. But it was the movie. It wasn't a series. It was the movie. And when I tell you, when that hit the screen for me, a whole world opened. I was like, first of all, who's drawing this? Second of all, why is this action scene so violent? Third of all, who did the soundtrack? Second of all, they're not paying taxes. Because there's no way this animation is this hardcore, hand-drawn anime, ladies and gentlemen. You are never going to get that again. Shout out to Nappa. I love Nappa. We all love Nappa. But to be honest with you, hand-drawn anime, Madhouse, Studio Bones. Come on, y'all know the studios back in the day. I know what I'm talking about, right? So, with that being said, we still kept it under wraps, right? No one, I didn't have a community. I didn't have an anime club where I was able to be like, hey, did you see this? Did you see that? And then Dragon Ball just stepped in the scene. So, and then Sailor Moon. And that was weekly. I'm not doing weekly no more, ladies and gentlemen. I bench hard, but you know, back in the day we didn't have access to stuff like that. And for us to get real like series and videos, there was a place in Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn, right? Y'all from Brooklyn, right? Girl. Woo! Appreciate the train ride. So there was a spot in Fulton, across from the mall, where there was this guy who had a book that was laminated. It was a loose leaf, and it had all the series that he downloaded. I don't know how he was able to put it on VHS, but you would come to him like, yo, listen, do you have Samurai X? And he'd be like, got it. Season 2, you want it? Got it. He was my pusher. When I tell you he was my pusher, his name was Mike. Shout out to Micheal. He was my pusher. And that was the connection. $20 per VHS tape, and it had 4 episodes. Y'all don't remember how YouTube used to be when you used to watch one episode and it had 3 parts?
Spanish. In Spanish.
In Spanish.
Imagine that struggle with VHS.
Like, I was like,
Imagine that VHS struggle.
crazy.
Uptown, it was Portuguese. Y'all downtown in Brooklyn, we got it in Portuguese on tapes that you got off of a blanket. It was
clean though.
No, it was not. I don't know what you're talking about. The design was nice.
No roaches, I mean.
Oh,
my experience growing up as a 90s kid, man. So I was born in 91. And for me, my first, yo, stop playing. I'm already in the club, it's all good, I can drink. So, but for me, man, my first experience, like growing up in the 90s with anime, man. Early morning before I went to school, it was always Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, Pokemon. That's how I learned the poker rap like the back of my hand. Like, what? Articuno Jinx, you don't get me started. I killed that whole thing. But, yo, back in the day, I definitely was one who used to hide it. You know what I'm saying? Because at that time, I was chasing after women who did not like anime at all. I wanted all the hot girls that wanted the drug pushers and all that. I was not chasing after anime girls. They like dudes with Jordans. They like dudes who was nice and bold. I'm like 5'6", so I was never nice and bold. Forever trash. But I definitely my dribble was trash. No hand, that drink. I stutter step, but yeah, I definitely used to hide the fact that I liked it when I was around certain women I was trying to get. So I tried to be, you know what I mean, the guy with the Jordans and all of that. That didn't work because it wasn't me. I love anime, I'm nerdy, and that's one of my regrets. Like, I didn't learn too late in life to just be yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's the first lesson I learned. But back then, you know, to kind of piggyback over what you were saying, it was hard to get that anime. Like, that weekly joint, man, when Toney used to start up and all of that, yo, I used to have to dash home because I had mad after school stuff to do. So I used to have to try to dash home and catch the episodes. Like, yo, it was tragic, but at the same time, Toney did open up doors for anime. And like once Dragon Ball Sailor Moon in the West, like it just became a thing where in little hush tones in the corners of school, you see people talking about it. And then you like, oh shit, I like the same thing I like. Then that's when everything really started to become fire for me, where I could really be me and I was comfortable with it. Because I see, you know, once you see other people into what you into, you start getting your bag too. You know what I'm saying? Because you feel like, oh, they're not gonna look at me weird because I'm trying to learn Japanese or I'm trying to turn Super Saiyan or nothing like that. Like, I know we all try that. We all know. I know a couple people who know to run down the hallway. It was fire, but you know, back then, like I said, we all used to try. Well, I used to try to tuck it away, but as I started to control, I started really getting open to being myself. And you know, those times, even though they were struggling to get VHS and all of that, you know, I wouldn't trade that for the world. Because I seen, what, Dragon Ball Z was everything to me. Like, just seeing, you know, like you said, Samurai X, you know, seeing Kenshin for the first time, oh my God, that blew my mind. All of that stuff, I love it. Come on, talk to me. Talk to me. Yo, you have to show Dark to me? Come on, he was an original killer. Come on now. Like, you guys, come on. Ain't you sure like me? So I was dumb, right? But yeah, man, it was a hell of a time, man. Thank God now, access is way better. But it was a time that I wouldn't trade for nothing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to pass it on down the line. I'm going to talk to the people.
Alright, so for me, my journey was started off before Toney. It was actually back when Sci-Fi Channel actually ran anime on Saturdays. Yes. And you would watch your Saturday morning cartoons, and then after that, Sci-Fi ran anime. And that's when I first saw Akira. That was my first anime.
Akira?
Yeah, Akira was my first. Yes. So when I first saw that, you coming off from watching Batman TAS, X-Men, and Hey Arnold, Rugrats, and watching all that, and then you see Akira, and you're like, what is this? And this is something totally different. And I was just immediately hooked from that point on. And then usually then they channel 11, which people know as the CW now, at 6:30 in the morning they run Dragon Ball, and Pokemon, and then Card Cats. So I would watch that, and then like you, I had to push it as well. Now for those who are from Queens, you know, sub-Queens, you know, Gertz Mall. You go to Gertz Mall, Jamaica Avenue, you go down to the lower level, there was a Jamaican guy there who would sell you 5 for $20. 5 animes for $20. So I was hell of a deal. So I was collecting things from Envy Guys, Robotech on the course was one of the companies, ADV. There was so much anime there, like here was Greenwood, Video Girl AI. It was so much. Yes, there's just tons of throwback anime. So for me, it was just like a whole different world. Like it was something that. There's a different level of storytelling. They treated their audience, everybody, whether it was a child or an adult, they treated everybody the same age. Like, okay, this is the story, this is the plot. They took things more seriously compared to when we was watching the cartoons that we grew up with. So yeah, that was definitely my gimmick.
Why what's your story?
I'm not from New York, so my I had to pump my chest up because everybody's talking about it. The thing is, I've lived all over. You know, I was born in Atlanta, I'm from the South, so I'm a Southern boy, walk around barefoot. You know, I've kind of been all over. So my experience with anime I can't say I got into it later. I might have been like maybe 9 or 10 or so. But you know, I gotta give a shout out to Kevin for bringing up Sailor Moon so many times, because most black men will not admit it, but their entry point to anime was Sailor Moon. They were not skipping it when it came on. I got 4 older brothers, and when it came on, we weren't skipping it. And we tried to play it off like, yeah, Tuxedo Mask. We watched the show, we liked it. I was shocked. You know what I'm saying?
Do you not use Tuxedo Mask moves? Like you trying to back someone, you like, yo, my boy.
I did.
There it is.
Well, the thing is, like, again, too, like for us, you know, with my brothers, we all grew up as athletes. So basketball, football, track, we were all martial artists. So a big part of it is like the whole cartoon, the comic book collecting. My dad was into it, but he was also a big like workout guy. So on the surface, a lot of people didn't know how big the fandom was in our house, because we didn't really indulge in it like that. And again, like I'm playing basketball, I can't talk to somebody about like Goal 13 or you know like at least I say you know what I'm saying. Fist of the North Star. My dad would cop a lot of these things. Those are the things that you know I kind of grew up watching. You know, Red Hot, obviously Ninja Scroll. But you know, sometimes your parents will, when they're trying to support you, they just kind of buy anything in that realm. And I think one of the things that messed me up is my dad randomly saw Wicked City. He just saw like the cover for it. Mind you, I'm like 12 or 13. He's like, I bought this, we should all watch it. When the spider scene came on, right? So if anybody who hasn't watched Wicked City, no, we watched it. He sat there and was like, oh shit. He looked at us, we were watching it. Now mind you, like I said, I have 4 older brothers, right? If I'm 12, my oldest brother's like 16, 17. He's already talking to the girls. We all actually were at the time. So my dad was just like, I just gotta let it rock. Because if I cut it off, it's gonna look like I did something wrong. So we watched it. At the end of it, I think that stuck with us the most when the shorty's thing just turned into teeth. It was just kind of like, that was crazy. And from that day on, he would be like, hey, would you be interested in this? Before he bought it, you know what I'm saying? So he ended up buying us a lot of stuff, and you know, I think he saw how much I loved anime before I did, and kind of was able to like really culture that, and that's where I did see like Rurouni Kenshin or you know, like Escaflowne, which is up there in like my top 5. I feel like a lot of mech anime that people watch now was so influenced by the fluidity of Escaflowne and just like the awesome storytelling. So that's my little piece.
You're more of a gangster.
Yeah,
Same too.
So I started as a bookhead. Like I used to read a lot of fantasy and things like that. And my dad had left at our house this huge stack of comic books. So that's kind of how I got into like that world. I'd read all that, and it was just like something I would use to connect to my dad and like have something to myself. And then one day I woke up in my grandma's room. I used to sleep in her bed. I woke up and Bubblegum Crisis was on.
Oh my God!
Yeah. And that's kind I was reading fantasy, and all of them, the protagonists were men. And then I saw Bubblegum Crisis, and it was like 5 women, and they was just wilding, right? They were wilding. Yeah, they were actually the original City Girls. And after that, I got introduced to Toney, and then yeah, it just kind of grew with my interest from there. But it was always kind of secretive for me. I'm not a guy, so I'll never forget this guy, and I have to change his name if I get famous by it. I'm gonna say his real name though. This kid, Senku Bandele, used to be in a whole group with the Yu-Gi-Oh people, and I remember rolling up on them when I first started Dragon Ball Z, and I was like, hey yo, y'all like Dragon Ball Z, right? Like, I tried to talk to them, and he was like, shut up, we're like in 7th grade, 6th grade, and he's like, as like hostile as children are, but like, let's scarred me for life, obviously, because I still remember the guy's name. But either way, after that interaction, it became something that was like my thing. You know what I mean? I was watching anime, I was reading comics, but it was like, my mom would bring me to the bookstore, drop me off, and go shopping with my sister because they like fashion. And then I'd be like, doing whatever. And it was just something that was secret for so long, and I think that's a big reason why I started my page, because it was something that I was like, I gotta watch it, I'm secret, my friends knew I was smart and intense, they just didn't know my actual interest and where that came from. So I have to say, growing up anime for me was a little isolating. But at the same time, what was isolating before is now had morphed into something that brings a subset of Black people together, which I think is very, very cool. Especially now where it's because it was isolating for me, I learned how to be, I think I got closer to the Blackness, which I think is really cool, because now it's that's the question, right? Now people get to be Black, they get to be into anime. We wear street, we got on one Jordans and stuff like that. We wear anime. I gotta back to what you wear? I know it's fly. I didn't even look at the footwear over there. Yeah. I mean, all my friends I met on the internet now, which is crazy, right? A little family, but yeah, it was definitely, anime was the first time, obviously there were no Black people, but it was the first time that as a woman, I saw myself in media, not as an accessory between Sailor Moon, between Bubblegum Crisis, even Tenchi Muyo, the whole thing was, all those shorties was after them, and he didn't deserve none of them. That was the takeaway, right? Everybody wanted him, and it was why? He's white. Yeah. And it was something I really liked. That was pretty much growing up there. Now I get to share my experience, and my family gets to be more interested and learn a little bit more about it. And I don't have to hide it. Now it's the shorties know. I gotta tell y'all this story real quick because it's my favorite, and it doesn't have to do with anime. But I went to go see The Winter Soldier on a date down south, and I lied and said I didn't really know much about Captain America. And the whole time I'm watching it, if you guys ever seen Mean Girls and listen to Katie when she's pretending she doesn't know math, it was like that. So he's lying about knowing Winter Soldier to impress me, and in my head I'm this guy's an idiot. The whole time he's yeah, Captain America, was a Nazi, and he's just making up shit. And I was wow, you're so stupid. But I had already been lying, so we're just two liars. On this day, on this movie, I had to go watch it again by myself.
Well, actually, I'm just oh my God, I can't believe you did that.
Oh, for sure. Which is it was a big lie. My parents took me to see Avengers for my graduation. I dragged my grandmother there. I dragged my grandmother to see the first Avengers. Yeah, I dragged my grandmother to go see it. She was in a wheelchair. I was y'all said what I want. It's my graduation. We gotta go see Avengers. It's the first one. I'm boo-booing
Patrick. In the sense that, much like everybody else here, I listen to Toney, he's the Dragon Ball.
Yes.
It was a dope hero costume. But it's like, for me, it was like, socially it wasn't as difficult of a thing because I just wasn't social anyways. Because I was always just kind of, my friend laughs because he already knows. Like, I'd be more of like, I like having more of like a smaller circle of friends that were like real close rather than trying to get everybody. So for me, I would just go through school. I didn't like being there anyways, but I would be just drawing, doing my own thing, drawing anime characters, Batman, whatever, and it would attract people, and they'd be like, oh, you like this thing too, and then we can form a bond off of that. So it wasn't so much that I had as much difficulty with other people because, you know, if they saw me drawing Batman or making my own comics based off of Ghost in the Shell, they'd be like, oh, that's weird, they'd walk away, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? And I just keep going back and doing my own shit, so. Yeah, like I said, for me, and it's really good to see that it's popped off as big as it has, and now we have more community, we have opportunities to try and make a living off this type of stuff. Obviously, it's a lot bigger for our Black community as well. We've come out of hiding, and we say, hey, I'm here too, so I think that's a beautiful thing.
So yeah, my experience was really different, I guess. For me, I kind of, like the first anime I ever saw was Pokemon, and I was like 5 or 6. So naturally, I was like, hey, the video games had just came out, and I had like the Game Boy Pocket. And the thing was, I didn't know how to read. So I'm over there just mashing buttons, and I'm like, yo, this is just really cool. But then I realized, like, I really want to learn how to read, so that way I actually know what I'm doing. And so I had to like really focus on like learning at like 6 or 7, like understanding, like, okay, so this actually says run. Oh, that's why I'm not fighting these Pokemon right now. Yeah, and it just kind of like speak on my phone, like, yo, if you're gonna learn, you're gonna go to the anime.
I'm gonna do for lunch.
So then, yeah, and then it kind of like from there, like growing up for me, I didn't have cable, so like 4Kids TV and Fox Kids or like Fox in the Box. Yeah, it's Saturday morning. You had to wake up early. It's like, yo, I gotta watch that Digimon. It's like Digimon for me was like,
Is everything?
yeah, it was. To be honest, I know this is controversial. I always thought it was better than Pokemon.
Nah, Digimon fine.
It's like yours.
Did anybody else feel that way about Digimon, where it was like the rich man's Pokemon?
I feel like
Too high around to watch Digimon, and then like, I'm gonna go and go.
me and Jill fight about this constantly. I would say no, it was the opposite. But
I felt like if somebody was like, I watched Digimon, I'm like, oh. Excuse me. Because it came on later in the afternoon, which meant that you didn't have to go to Home Depot with your parents, so you had money that you were going into. Exactly.
You ain't had peanut and jelly in the same time.
How ridiculous the transformations were. At that point, you're watching Pokemon, and a lizard turned into a dinosaur. You're like, alright, I got it. And then Digimon, a lizard would turn into a mech Zord, and then would turn into a break dancer after that. And you feel like, what's gonna be next?
Take it back.
But yeah, that's pretty much like just quick. My first journey into like anime for me.
That's fine. It
I
helps.
love that.
It helps motivate yourself to learn how to read. That's
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also like, you know, obviously Yu-Gi-Oh, like that kind of like strategy-wise. But I wasn't very good at that, so.
Well, one thing for sure, I know that we all had our struggles with getting access to anime growing up in the 90s, right? So with Crunchyroll, Netflix, Hulu, do you guys ever worry about, with the anime content coming out so rapid, will the quality just, you know what I mean?
Already has dropped.
Wow. I mean, God, high school Chatty, so
not the animation-wise, but I think story-wise.
Story-wise, yes.
There's so many anime tropes. I mean, how many, and this might be a little controversial, but how many times we're going to get the boy meets alien girl trope? We're going to get the chosen hero trope. I mean, it just seems like compared to the anime that we watched before, it just seems like it has the same basis story. Like the one that I think really stand out was Erase. That for me was just like,
Erase.
oh,
But that's what I'm saying, like, now there's a freedom, right? Because, you know, just society's more open. So even like Jujutsu Kaisen, right? We're watching a team, we're watching a team, and the girl, they like fix Sakura for us, right?
Yes.
They keep on calling it. So I think the animation from the 90s is a little bit better, because Napa, they just churning it out, right? But in terms of storylines, I love that they're way more concise. They're like putting out 12, 13, 14 episodes, seasons, instead of doing like 60 seasons. But like, things like Attack on Titan is coming out.
That's an exception. That's an exception.
I think too, a big part of it is that the moment it opened up, right, everybody's able to get their hands in it. So they see that there is money in it. And in any industry where that happens, I don't think the progress has gotten less. I don't think the storytelling and stuff like that has gotten worse per se. More people have gotten their hands in it, so there's more access to a lot of different things. And so for me, you know, as a content creator, a lot of the times people will be like, I can't make something because someone else has already done it. But realistically, you making it from your perspective. I mean, with that mentality, right? Like you look at Yu Yu Hakusho, you look at Hunter x Hunter, they fathered the game for a lot of other things that we see, and people have told it from their perspective. Is there a lot more kind of what we would perceive as garbage out there? Yes, but we also were some of the first people to touch those storylines. Things like Erased is not necessarily new, because there's things like ReZero and all that other stuff where people were going back in time, having that depth loop. They just did it in such a way with that nuance of adding suspense and that kind of a storytelling thing. And I feel as though, you know, like I am not a big fan of Black Clover because I call it trope clover, simply because there's just a bunch of tropes that's tossed in. However, when I'm reading it or seeing certain parts of it, there are aspects of it that they do bring in that adds a sort of nuance, and you can see that people connect to it. Because I'm like, all right, you're watching, you know, Black Clover, you might as well just watch Naruto. And they're like, yeah, but there is a difference in there between the magic system and everything else. I want to be the magic king. I want to be the Hokage. What's the difference? A kid who's basically trash, nobody messes with him. Another kid who's basically trash, nobody messes with him.
But isn't that what you said, that Black Clover was the diet soda of Naruto? Fairy tale.
But there are people that love it because they get the nuance in it. So, I mean, I love that more people are adding their perspectives to it. And like, you know, I gotta say we're OGs in it. So we know how to look past it. And we're getting to those things where we are able to see the Attack on Titans and the ReZeros and all the upper echelon stuff. And it's our responsibility to hand that down. You know what I'm saying? To them, like, okay, you like fairy tale? Have you watched One Piece? Well, no, it's too long. Well, you need to stop it.
I also think that like that's the genre, and we need to accept that, right? Like it's like you watching a soap opera, Telemundo. You know there's gonna be twins. You know that someone's gonna die, come back to life. It's just stuff you jump amnesia. You know, so they're not long lost. Exactly.
I love that word, the lost brother.
Right. So like people watching those shows know this is gonna be in what we're watching. We know it's the Pirate King, the Wizard King, the #1 hero, No matter what, the protagonist is gonna be going towards gold. That's gonna be the trope. But like something like My Hero, right? Which now they're talking about society, right? Capitalism. Now we're looking in, so it's the trope of anime, I wanna go to there. But also I'm like, are these heroes dirty? What's going on? Oh my gosh, these villains, do they have a point? So it's the same tropes, I agree. But even the stuff you like, it's like, like...
No ideas.
Right, but you know how you listening to music now and you're like, this is trash, right? People were saying that to us when we were listening to Drake and stuff like that. They were like, yo, how could you listen to that? It's garbage. But I was like, no, right? They were saying that about Slick Rick. I'm sure my grandma was like, Mom, big hip hop. It's probably like, what's this garbage you hold on to nostalgia. But like, if you go back and watch some of those old anime,
You know how some of them do not. Some of them do not.
But see, that's the problem I have with y'all. Now I gotta be. See, this is the thing. Y'all making it seem. Y'all making it seem like God High School didn't happen and Promised Neverland season 2 didn't happen. You didn't see it. I was there. I was there. You
say
said
there's no bad animes from the 90s?
no, they are. But I feel like right now, because there's such pressure with all these studios grabbing titles after they sign their contract. Oh, we gotta release this spring, summer, fall. We're just getting half drawn or half animated. Like the story's not there. Like there was some Tower of God. That was a promising webtoon. It should have been better. It's not nothing with it. You didn't think the show was better? It was alright. It was alright. It should have been better. It was
So
alright.
I finished it, despite the fact that it was stick figures. Because I was watching it, I was like, this is, I could have animated this myself. I was like watching it, like this is terrible. And then I got in past the second episode, I was like, that's a good story.
I'm from a generation where my artist that worked in the studio has sclerosis. That's how good he was.
You're like work-life balance.
We know Oda don't sleep. Oda goes to the doctor twice a year for sleep deprivation. The God. We all know that, yo, when you work in the anime studio, your life, you're dedicated to drawing and making sure this content is great, right? But now, with it being so high in demand, it's being popular, it's being pop culture, you don't want them to take your favorite anime, your favorite manga, and then it comes out, you're like, who did this? Who asked for this?
Can I say one thing about Oda? Because y'all know I just started One Piece.
Oh my God.
The animation is rough. The animation is terrible. What are you talking about? Oda was not sleeping and the animation was still bad. So it's not about, you don't need to sleep deprive your team for that, right? Yo, I watched one scene, old boy went to punch one of those hardline people and it stopped mid-scene, clipped, and restarted. Yo, I'm the editor. I know when I see it. And it was a bad edit. And I was like, this man not sleeping for this?
Oh, you saw that in Naruto too. Keep them up.
I'm not the one complaining about the animation. She's saying, Oda don't sleep. And it was still bad.
See,
No,
So we should stop.
that's the thing. Like, Studio, manga, two different things. On the set there, gave you over 1,000 chapters, let his fingers never went outside, and gave you hit after arc after hit after saga, all that. Now, Told Away, that's a whole different story. They couldn't keep up. They couldn't keep up.
With Oda.
They're trying right now. They're trying right now. Shout out to Wano. They're trying. But that's my biggest concern. Because here's the thing. With the new people that's coming into anime, right? You're loving Jujutsu Kaisen. You're loving Demon Slayer. You're loving Spy Family and all that, right? So, which is great. But at the same time, too, we want you to understand that everything that looks pretty has to have story behind it. Has to have substance behind it.
Exactly.
So, story is very important. Story is very important.
Now, this is, granted, I totally agree with what you said there, but it also just depends on, I guess, what exactly it is you're trying to get out of it. Because, like, say you have this Yu Yu Hakusho, one of my favorites, easy. Well, by modern standards, you could say the animation is not as on point, but watch it anyways, Dave. Right? But, like I said, fantastic story, I have no complaints. Now,
Dragon the Darkness Flame.
oh, no complaints whatsoever. That moment is still here's the point. Even for something as very weird and trash and with very questionable morality as like Wicked City, because I watched that too.
Classic.
But the animation was, you gotta admit, the art style was on point. So I'll go back to it because I find something to come back to in that artwork. But I can still acknowledge that the story is trash and that whoever directed this was really going through some things at the time. So it depends on what you want to get out of it.
Doctor scene in the hallway.
Yes, that was a fantastic scene. But some of the animation was a little weird.
Yu Yu Hakusho's in my top 5 shows. It's number 1 tied with Hunter x Hunter, so that's a hard one.
Now, let's film on this Trigon.
Yes.
Story, animation, didn't overstay its welcome. Watch that too.
So for me, it's like I have the same consumption view when it comes to how much they're pumping out, because I'm watching some of these shows and I'm like, where's the heart? Where it is when it comes to the story? Like, if you have never seen Grave of the Fireflies, this is what I'm talking about when it comes to anime. Anime has heart. It's my favorite anime movie of all time. I only watched it once because, like you just said, it hits you, and you see everything. It's like Netflix has it now. Netflix doing anime, Amazon's doing anime, Hulu's doing anime. Everybody's taking anime because it's the most popular thing right now. It's sooner or later anime. We predicted before anime is going to take over. It might once the MCU becomes the Western, and it will happen eventually. Yeah. People get so once the MCU and DC becomes like the Westerns, and people get tired.
DC's making a comeback.
Yeah, that's what the Batman. But once that happens, and people get tired of the superheroes, the next thing in line is going to be anime. So you're going to see a lot of these corporations come out and start saying, okay, we got to get into the pie. Sony already bought Funimation, so Sony owns practically almost everything now with Crunchyroll. They own Funimation. The only thing we have now is the Sentai Filmworks and other animes. But what you're going to see now is that everybody's just going to be an anime arms race. And it's going to be, everybody's just going to be pushing out content, but it's going to be, is the quality going to be good?
But I think we got to separate movies and like feature and TV too, because to be honest, like movies, there's a different level of energy that goes into a movie, right? And you know, going into episodes and series and stuff like that. And I gotta say, like most movies that I've seen seem to be more heartfelt. They cost more money, you know, in a big burst, a big investment. People kind of have to, you know, lean into that. Akira is probably one of my favorite movies of all time, and easily one of my favorite anime movies of all time. But like most people don't even know what the hell's going on with that, and it's mostly like it is a portion of that art. I think, you know, when we see these studios start making stuff, they're generally making things that already have an audience via the writer and the creator and stuff like that. The issue that I'm seeing, and I hope that they rectify, is the fact that they are getting people who are not fans to make fan-beloved stuff. And that is wildly irritating. I hate hearing an interview where a guy's like, yeah, you know, I just wanted to see my take on it. No, I don't care about your take, nigga. Your take does not matter.
But you know what?
You know what I'm saying?
You know what though? That's one of the reasons I think we're in a good space though. Because while they try to do things like that, we can all, with social media, we can all voice our opinion and be like, nah, that's trash, get that out of here. That's why Promised Neverland was done, because we said that's trash, get it out of here. That's why we got good Sonic movies, because that first trailer, Sonic was looking crazy. We said that's trash, and they actually had to fix it. So I think that's one of the positives with them pushing everything out. We can actually voice our opinion and say, nah, that's trash, take that back. So for every Promised Neverland we get a Death Note, we get a Attack on Titan, we get a Chainsaw Man about to drop that everyone was looking forward to. So it's like it's a mixed bag, you know what I mean? It's like a fine line. You can't do too much for one side, you can't do too much for the other, you know what I mean? But we in a good space though, as far as anime, just comics, all that other stuff, we can voice our opinions. So
Now,
it's a good thing.
I'll say a quick note on that, and I definitely want to make this clear to fandom who's out there in general about the nature of like adaptation, because obviously as fans we want to see something that's like true to what it is that we like, but I think just for the fact that it's an adaptation, you don't have as much time, same resource, whatever, something is going to change, but just as long as the changes make sense, that's my big thing. So,
Yeah, I agree with that.
and if your criticisms are coming from a good place, that's enough.
Yeah. So another thing. Now, I'm a big shoujo fan. I'm not gonna sit here and just talk about shonen. I love shoujo. I love shoujo. I love Josei too. So I'm get over.
Look at her.
So, do you think the reason that shoujo is not as popular as shonen is because of misogyny?
Duh. What are you asking? What are you asking?
In the times that we are right now.
They think things that aren't even sojo if it's woman-led, right? Like Kill la Kill, right? Or even Bird the Witch and stuff like that, where it's like clearly a shonen, but the whole point is they can't promote that to 12-year-old boys, or 12-year-old boys are gonna be like, ill, it's a girl. Or the grown-ass men will also be like, ill, it's
In this
a girl.
generation, everybody got feelings.
No, we're saying no. Y'all, It's like when we put out a black project, right? You can put out a black movie, right? But if someone sneezes in the background, now it's gonna give a few bombs, right? It's like, if it's not perfect, the criticism that's gonna come for it is gonna be crazy. So Dragon Ball Super, which I love, y'all, I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan. Dragon Ball Super can put out, but terrible, right? We all watch it, we all say we love it. And then, we'll watch something that's women-led, and they're gonna be like, this very small detail
Like the way
really bothered me, and now I can't watch it. Yeah, and then they'll say, I can't watch it. You know what I'm saying? Even characters, let me think of a character that people, Sakura, one of my most important videos that went really big was when I said Sakura was just as useless as Krillin, right? You were there when we did the debate. And everybody was losing their mind and defending Krillin for the same exact things that Sakura was doing, right? Like, Sakura never died, right? She was, and that's what I'm saying. I was like, she is way more useful to the cause than Krillin has ever been, right? But we fuck with Krillin because he's a man, he's a short king, and we like that. We hate Sakura because she's a woman and she played your boy, and they never got over that.
I got you, but that's the thing though, that's shonen though. See, the thing that I've learned about shoujo, reading shoujo, watching shoujo, story is very important. If you ask me what's more important in the anime, whether it's a fight scene or story, I'm always gonna say story. The fight scene can only last but a couple of seconds. Listen, anybody get their butt whipped. Give me a story about you whipping this guy's butt. Tell me you kicked out your mother, beat up your father, forced you to go to a training camp, beat up everybody, they ate your sensei, they came back and said, okay, this is my purpose, I'm gonna kill you, this is why. Even villains have an epic backstory why they're the way they are. Preach. But you won't get that unless you have a dedicated writer, dedicated studio that's focused on story just as much as the budget with animation. And I feel like shoujo does that. Shoujo has the most.
Still not watching it.
But you know what? I think that, real quick, I just think that there has to be a certain maturity level for people who are indulging in it. Because I'm not gonna lie, as much as I love Dragon Ball Z, I did not give I'm not gonna curse, but I didn't care about the story. I wanted to see people get beat up. 5 minutes.
It's going to fight in Dragon Ball Z, give me 3 lines.
Yo, the episode of Piccolo and Goku trying to learn how to drive, I was so tight. I'm like, yo, is nobody gonna get punched? That's why I love One Piece so much, because it's such a good story behind it. I started to really go for the story. But as a kid, I just wanted to see people get beat up. That's why I said when I was fighting, because the other girls was getting busy. They was clapping people, like, it was crazy.
Well, I think too, like, it was easy to say you liked anime because they was boxing. You can like, yo, the boxing in this show is fire, right? The boxing in the show is fire. And now that it's become more acceptable, and I think, to what you were saying before, right, about story, now, and again, okay, like it's, as we're maturing, as the genre is growing, people are kind of getting out of that, and something like, Erased is so prominent, people love it because the story behind it is fantastic. And now that we've seen it and it's okay to be an anime head, it's actually okay to just watch something that is more slice of life, like Silver Spoon.
But they're not
whatever
pushed
it may
like
be.
shonen. How many of y'all seen Taxi? How many of y'all seen Vivi? There it is. They're great. They're great. But nobody talks about it.
You have to look there too, but it's also, you gotta look at it from business standpoints too. It's like who's selling,
It's crunchyroll. I give you a subscription every month, right? So my thing is that you're supposed to be pushing. Not only that, we got these companies out. All they gotta do is reach out people on TikTok or IG and be like, yo, push this. Since you like anime, push this. And then sometimes they could just wait for the person to push it who has all these followers and be like, hey, we're gonna repost you for no money. Nowadays, you don't have to
We
spend
just
money
need
on
like
advertising.
to push it real quick, and then people will start watching the show. So, but that's really what I feel like it is the right people. We need people like you talking about the shows that people are not seeing and really talking about the importance of the story and how it really, kind of affects you. The reason why I like the Parker show and those kind of shows before, you watch a dirtbag where basically grow up and become a man, and a lot of different of his things. Genkai calls him out on that. He's like, you trash, and you've been trash. Things have been easy for you, and the moment it gets hard, you know what I'm saying? You buckle.
Yeah,
I love that scene.
That training scene where she was like, it's time
You step up.
and care about something other than yourself.
And that was
character progression.
She was talking to me, low key.
and that was huge. And I think, it's there when we need the right people to kind of push it and kind of really speak to that. And I'm a big proponent. I haven't watched a lot of Shoujo, but a lot of it hasn't been shown to me in that light where people have talked about it like, yo, you gotta really get on this.
There's so many underrated animes, and this is not just Shoujo. So there's an anime called Now and Then, Here and There. If you ever one of the best, that's in my top 5. It is very mature, it's dark, very aggressive, and you have one of the best female characters in Sarah. And I'm not going to spoil it because I want people to watch it themselves, but her arc and her growth is so touching. You have Neon Genesis Evangelion, since you were talking about women in anime. You have Masao Kazaraki, who's another one, who is such a great character. They depicted women as just, they're flawed. They're not perfect. Masato's in an abusive, I don't want to say abusive relationship with Kaji, but she's in a relationship with Kaji, and, he's a flirt. But, she also has this responsibility. She has the issues with her father. And there's so many animes out there that put, like, Robotech. You have a female, Lisa Hayes, who's in charge of the SDF-1. There's so many animes out there that have great women representation out there.
But y'all are all missing Patty's question.
Yes.
Patty's question was, do you think Shoujo is not as popular because of misogyny? And all of y'all are referring to I was like, I just need to drive that home. The point is that there are so many good ones. I just don't want it to be said that it feels like it's good and people can
we all agree with you.
Yes. It felt like I was giving excuses and I was like, there's good stuff out there.
There's other things too.
They're not pushing it. Great times. Me and Patty can't do the work there. You get what I'm saying? Y'all gotta do the work there. We can't do that work. Yeah, because I can promote a Shoujo after Shoujo, and they can be like, of course Frankey gonna do that. She all about women, right? But if y'all doing it, Shaw had Goofy, if they talking about, yo, this is way back. The only way I can do it, which I'm trying to stay away from, is if I push it Neon Genesis or whatever is better than. If I say it's better than Yu Yu Hakusho, maybe I'll watch it just so you can tell me to eat it.
But that works.
I'm sorry. But beyond that, it's really hard to get it, and we can't do that work.
Right.
One quick point on that too, where the way that I see it, of course, I think misogyny is a part of it, just as much as, whether or not it appeals to them in particular is a part of it. For me, I'm not as big on the high schooly type of superheroes as much as I am the big iconic DC Justice League type of characters. But most of that just comes from me personally. I'm past that point in my life. So high school sucked. I don't want to go back. So, but I think the thing that's important is we acknowledge that there's both, but figuring out where the ratio is. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a statistical analyst, so I have no idea, but I think part of the responsibility then comes on some bold new creator to make a new show or make a new manga that does act as the Dragon Ball Z gateway drug for shoujo. That does it in a way where maybe some people aren't beaten over the head with the tropes that maybe don't appeal to them, but they're like, okay, I kind of get into this, and then they start to see the appeal in other things. Grant Morrison when he did his Wonder Woman Earth 1 books, right at the height of the anti-feminist debate online, and then he put out a superhero book with a lot of feminist ideas. He did it in a very creative and intelligent way. So I feel like that's.
And they still don't make.
But you know what it is? We have to acknowledge that the misogyny is built into the foundation. And I think that's why we're talking about it. Showing means boy.
Right.
So it's that's kind of how it's pushed. Is built into that. So I mean, the question, yeah, you definitely answered it. The way to kind of battle it is like, it really is gonna need that level, the right level of exposure to it. Because again, like, it's Shonen Jump, it's whatever, like they need to make a crossover where you can kind of see those things because it has value.
I mean,
and
if you put
that's the missing portion of it.
into a Shonen Jump magazine, there's no reason why you can't put Revolutionary Girl, Nintendo, and Peach Girl, and do all that. Sailor Moon S in the same, like, it's toxic because look, we have freaking Teen Titans canceled. Why?
But too many girls were watching it.
Say that one
There
more
were
time.
more
Too
women.
many girls were watching
There were
it.
more girls watching the show, and you know why I was watching the show? Because the story was fire. It was fire. Y'all was waiting for fight scenes. We were waiting to see what the drama was.
They have both.
But they did have both, but it wasn't enough to keep the guys in, it wasn't enough to keep the guys interested.
I would say more women got into it because I never met a dude who was like, yeah.
I mean, it's facts. The numbers don't lie. The reason they cut off Teen Titans was because there was more females watching.
But I think
viewership themselves are saying, okay, well, let's cancel this off. And here's me, man, Teen Titans, like, where's my show?
the male audience went away. It was like the female audience went up, and they saw that and was like, well, are we doing the right thing? Because we're making shows for boys. But I've never heard people be like, at the end of Teen Titans, like, man, Teen Titans was trash because Robin was having a psychological issue with Slade. We were like, yo, this is fire.
Right.
What happened, you know? And I think, again, it being so ingrained in the system, mind you, just as a boys club having conversations with it. So they see the numbers, they see more women that are watching it, and they're like, well, are we doing the right thing? And then they cut it, not realizing that it's just more beloved people who can support it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So, I said, you mentioned Boys Club, right? We gotta wrap it up real quick because we've been ranting. Thank you, guys. But the reason I brought up the showgirl thing was I wanted to make it my mission, and so does Frankey. We want the anime community to not be a boys club. We want.
Way too much sausages. I don't want that.
So,
Y'all say that and then y'all not do the work.
No, but you know what though? And this was all I wanted to tell you earlier when you had mentioned like the way you try to attack the shonen angle and all of that. The way you do it is a good job because you will say something like, I remember you made a video about Gabby from Untitled Chapter and why everybody was going so hard on her. And I'm like, yo, what is she talking about? But you always said to bring up some points, and I'm like, damn, she got a good point. And a lot of, like I said before, with the maturity level, once you get to that maturity level as a man, and you able to really sit and listen to a woman and listen to what she got to say, they gonna put you on some game. Like Frankey be putting people on game, and I'll be like, damn, she's saying a whole bunch of stuff that the toxic man in me wants to rebuttal and retaliate, but I can't because she got it. So, but yeah, definitely, man, it gotta be a maturity level that go with it for all men. You know, I'm talking to every man in this room, every boy in this room, we gotta have a certain maturity level. Listen to the black queens, yo, 'cause they know what they be talking about, be for real. You know what I'm saying? They'll put you on game and show you how to get a wife and have kids and a house and all that.
Just give it a rest with the gatekeeping. If you, I don't care if you watch nothing but One Piece or nothing but Death Note. If you're down, you're part of the tribe. Men and women, it doesn't matter. Just welcome in. Just say, you know, you can get in the club. Come on in.
right.
There's plenty of room.
But I think it's just ingrained, right? I think the Gabby situation is a perfect example. She's the same exact character as Aaron. And Aaron, people will live and die for Aaron.
Just go
right?
off of him.
Yeah, for the sake, and she's younger. Aaron's a grown-ass man making these decisions, doing terrible. And they're like, but I love him. You gotta think about where he's coming from.
And I love this
And
character. She killed my
then this
favorite character.
12-year-old is doing the same thing as this adult man. And they're like, why did she do, oh no, she's terrible.
Yeah, she's
She's
terrible.
awful.
Kill
And I'm
her.
like,
Yeah.
that's because even men who aren't misogynists, misogyny is built into our society. So like women can project misogyny, I see that, right? And so that's the issue, is that we're not willing to confront our misogyny
And unlearn it.
and unlearn it, which is, I think, the core of the issue.
Absolutely, I agree.
So, the question is for the men of the panel. And Frankly, we get the right to judge you very harshly. What the hell are you gonna do now to make this community better for women who, to be honest with you, we trendsetters for this anime community. One of your favorite mangakas is probably a woman. If you like Full Metal Alchemist, that's a shorty right there. So what is it that you feel in your powers? Because all of you have platforms, all of you are down with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Force dripping, whatever. So what is it that you guys are gonna do to make it a better place and broaden the community for men and women, but most importantly, women who feel that they're being gatekeeped?
I'll kick that off. And I'm not gonna take too long because I know we gotta wrap. But mainly, first things first, what I do, speak for me and my brother Jimmy. We work on ourselves first and try to unlearn a lot of that behavior. You know what I'm saying? Like perfect example yesterday. There was during the panel. Somebody said female, and the women was like, whoa, and corrected it. And my man was like, oh, that's wrong? Okay, bet. You know what I'm saying? Now, mental note, not gonna do that no more. So it all starts within first. You gotta work with yourself, and then you can be able to really pass on that information on our platform and say, yo, y'all really need to sit down and listen to the women. Y'all gotta do this, y'all gotta do that. But it doesn't work if you don't work with yourself. You know what I'm saying? You have to internalize the information, learn from it, live it. Then we can pass it on. That's the only way we can really grow and really turn this into a space where we can have more of this. We can have a panel with men and women, and we can have a conversation. We can agree, disagree. We're gonna get loud. That's gonna happen. There's a lot of high energy in there, but we all know at the end of the day it's all love. You know what I'm saying? It's all love. We give everybody a space to talk, be themselves. We gotta start with us, and that's how I try to do a version. I try to grow. Patty, we chop up all the time about this type of stuff. And you put me on game. You and Frankey, y'all stay putting me on game. I'll be like, damn. And if I'm the notes I got on my phone, I'll be talking to y'all don't even know. It's be crazy. But yeah, that's what I think, man. Work on yourself first and learn, and then you can pass it on and spread it on the platform. Tell all the black men, white men, old men, like, yo, this is the way to go. What you doing, stop it. That was like 1955. Stop it. I'm tired of it.
Me to wrap it up, I would just say when it comes to answer your questions, just do what we've been doing since the beginning, since our inception. It's just we include everybody. We highlight things, create opportunities, bring things to the forefront. That's what we've been doing, that's what we're going to continue to be doing. As far as, you can do things like, just even platforms, you don't even have to have like a women's month. You can highlight someone, like you said, highlight some of the soldier shows, especially when if you have like on the PR of crunchyroll, like we have connection funimation and things like that, you review things like that, you showcase other artists, the unsung heroes. That's what we've been doing, so I'm going to continue to do that.
As fans of anime, I'm going to make it harder and don't fight for it. No. I think, I think, for me personally, the first thing I try to do is jump into the experience, right? Like two things is jump into the experience first, right? Experience those different shows, try to open myself up to new shows is important. And then, kind of get out of the way. A lot of the times I don't think men understand how much space they take up and how much time they take up, whether it's talking or whatever it is. And so like kind of getting out of the way for those moments. As a content creator myself, I try to be very intentional with a lot of the things that I make. In my art book, Black Nerd Problems wrote this thing that I constantly try to keep in mind when I'm drawing new characters is to like remove the idea of like the TNA poses, that they generally have. And that was probably one of my favorite parts about that article because I was like, nobody really says that. And I felt like, man, I think about that a lot, and I felt like I don't have a lot of women that follow me. And maybe because I'm not doing those poses, I'm missing out. Because, we can still perpetuate issues that happen. Like there's black people that perpetuate racism, and there are women that also are part of the system that will perpetuate, misogyny. And I felt like, man, maybe because I don't draw women this way, that's why I'm not getting the following. And when they wrote that, I was like, damn, that means that people are seeing it and they are appreciating it. So as a creator, to keep that in mind, to listen again, and then to make sure I'm constantly listening and reiterating on that. As the times change, I know that I also need to change as well. I'm in a unique position that I have an opportunity to create create visuals that will change that version of that. And so that's kind of where I feel like I can do my part to step into that place.
Yeah, to wrap it up, I can say for me the challenge is just because the behavior is so foreign to me personally that when I see things that some guys would do and say, I'm just like, what, why, how do you come to this conclusion? But maybe that's one thing to be just more aware of, to be like, okay, now you have to be more responsible to call out this behavior. Of course, go about it my own way to just treat everybody with, the appropriate degree of respect. And of course, from the content creation perspective, since we do have a lot of more women on the team than we did like a couple years ago, particularly Black women, and we're going to be making moves this year to put more, be more in a closer proximity and more productive in how we work with each other. So definitely, we'll have more female-led videos, more female-led, stories. Ones with them in the forefront, representing them as best as possible, and as much as possible, just trying to normalize and just show people, yeah, you're part of the tribe too. So I think I speak for us both.
Yeah, actually, I was just gonna say.
Major key, you gotta support it.
Okay, so that is our panel growing up anime in the 90s. Thank you guys for showing up. Real quick, we're doing a karaoke party, Black Mama karaoke party, on July 1st. Get your tickets, it's on our IG. You can sing your favorite OPs. I'll sing with you. When you buy your ticket, with the song real quick, because I'm trying to make sure that we party at 11:30 so we can be done with the karaoke 8 from 11. So yeah, come on, get the fingers going. Stop playing. Buy your tickets. Shout out to everybody in the panel. Thank you for pulling up. Thank you. Yes, wait. Hold on. We got everybody got to pick up their platform so you can follow. Hold on. Go ahead.
Yo, you can follow us at VOE Podcast on Instagram. It's v.o.e.podcast. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of that stuff.
And you can follow us on Instagram at Untitled Geeks, and most importantly, visit UntitledGeeks.com.
I'm Toney Design everywhere on the internet. MikeToney. Yeah, I'm very active. I answer questions and all that jazz. So yeah, check me out.
I'm at Fantastic Frankey, Frankey. Not for the faint of heart. If you're very, very sensitive about anime and comic books, beware.
Yeah, check us out on Instagram at Trapped in Anime TV. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Links in the bio if you want to find anything else, but any support is greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chatty.